I'm really happy to be a part of this. Dads have been on my heart for a long, long time, and especially once I became one. And I'm going to try to see how far I can make it into this without completely losing it in tears. And it's okay for men to cry, so I'll probably demonstrate that today at some point. But part of why I'm so passionate about this topic is because I'm well aware of how good I've had it. Like Connie was talking about, like these families that look perfect from the outside and like live in their nice little houses. Like that's me. By all appearances, I have had a perfect life, and I really have had an amazing life. And my family, and for the purposes of today, my dad is incredible. And it could have been really different. Without getting into the longer story, I'm adopted, and I've done a bit of digging over the years. Not much is available, but what I do know is that my biological parents were two 16-year-olds from Langley. Pretty likely that there was substance use involved, and as far as I know, my biological father took off as fast as humanly possible. And so it could have been very different, but I won the lottery. My family and my dad, yeah, I couldn't have asked for anything better. So Connie kind of told you a little bit. I wanted to show you a picture of my family because, as far as I'm concerned, this is what life's all about. I'm the dad to two girls. They're now 12 and 13, but you're going to meet them in a moment back when they were 6 and 7. I am the husband to a very fortunate wife of 17 years. I can say that because she's not here right now and she's back home and can't hit me. Um, and I'm someone who cares deeply, sometimes to a fault, and that's probably going to come out today as well. What I do is I am the owner and the director of one of the largest mental health clinics in Greater Vancouver, and I do consulting to businesses and large organizations, and I teach. But probably more what I do that aligns with who I am, that does too, but I'm a musician. I am a budding woodworker. I put it off for 20 years, and now I'm getting back into it, and it's probably the most therapeutic thing for me at this point. And I'm a car nut, so you ever want to talk cars, I'm your guy. But why I do it is because I think families matter. I think fathers are essential to the healthy development of children. I think that socioeconomic status should not determine the care that people receive, and that's why our clinic exists. And I don't think that it has to determine the health and well-being of our children. I think what our kids need is actually, while being difficult, very simple. Um, and so a few years back, I asked my youngest Ava here, when she was 6, what our relationship meant to her. And she drew this picture for me. And what she said at the time was, we're going for a walk together. It's important to spend one-on-one time together. And so then I asked my older daughter, who was 1 year older, and so she was 7, I asked her what our relationship meant to her. And what she said is, me and you are walking the dog together because I really wanted a dog and you got me a dog. We both love dogs. And the reason I share this, other than the amazing artwork, is that they talk about presence, right? And that is going to be the overarching theme for today is the importance of presence in the lives of our children. So I've got a few quotes that I think really kind of highlight some of what I want to share. And so I like sharing what other people have said versus what I say. And so Don French, who's a British comedian, says, "It was my father who taught me to value myself. He told me that I was uncommonly beautiful and I was the most precious thing in his life." Will Smith says, "There's so much negative imagery of Black fatherhood. I've got tons of friends that are doing the right thing by their kids and doing the right thing as a father. And how come that's not as newsworthy?" And this is really important. Sometimes we get the image in the media and TV shows and movies that dads aren't doing a good job. And there are some dads that are not doing a good job, just like there's some moms that are not doing a good job, and teachers and counselors and whoever else that don't do a great job. But it gives the idea that dads are absent all the time and that BIPOC dads on the whole aren't doing the right thing by their families. And this needs to end. It's not accurate and it's not helpful. And in this line of information, if this continues, we will have a crisis on our hands and we will have absent fathers and hurting kids. You tell somebody enough times that they're not doing a good job, they're going to leave. Like, that's just how this works. It doesn't matter what the environment is, whether it's, parenthood or working in a company or whatever the case. If I worked for a company and they kept telling me I wasn't doing a good job, I'll tell you how long I would stay in that job. It wouldn't be very long. So we need to change this. And John Gottman, who I've done quite a bit of training with, and he's done probably, him and his wife Julie have done probably some of the best research over the last 50 years on couples and relationships and families. And what he says is study after study after study is showing that father involvement and warmth and emotional availability to young children predict intellectual functioning and emotional functioning in both sons and daughters. Dads matter. We need to be present. We need to know that we matter in order to have the drive to be present, to do the hard work of being present, because it is hard sometimes, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Look at what Gottman says here. It's about being available. It's about being warm. It's about being emotionally connected. It has nothing to do with buying stuff or having the nicest house or cars or going on elaborate vacations, which is sometimes how men are measured. Oh gosh, are they going to Hawaii every year? Or what kind of cars are they driving? Or wow, their house is kind of small. Like, is he doing a good job? Like, these are the messages we get often as men and as fathers. Are we providing these things? And don't get me wrong, I do actually believe a big piece of our job is to make sure we're providing for our families. Like, that is a piece of what we need to be doing. But it's not the only thing, and the issue aren't the things. And in terms of how our kids turn out, who the heck cares whether we have the cars and the vacations and the whatever? It does not matter. And so I want to talk a few of the reasons kids need their dads. And I'm a brain geek, so we're going to talk neurobiology for a little bit. And it comes down to 3 different categories, right? It comes down to the impact of fathers in terms of brain changes, in terms of social and relationship changes, and in terms of behavior change. And so the problem is that we can't do random control trials on humans to deprive them of fathers. Like, it's not ethical, it wouldn't be good, and they won't let us do it, thank goodness. So here's what we know from animal studies, because that's the best we can do sometimes if we're trying to connect cause and effect. And so they did a study with puppies, and they deprived them of their fathers. And the researchers noted the effects on the prefrontal cortex, which is the part right here at the front of your brain. And it's the part of the brain that helps regulate social and cognitive abilities. And they noticed brain changes there. They noticed in controlled studies with mice that the ones raised without fathers had abnormal social interactions and high levels of aggression. Interestingly, the effects were actually stronger for the females versus the males. So these effects were actually stronger in the females, which I got to tell you, in terms of humans, just in my clinical experience, is accurate. It's interesting. Females raised without fathers were more sensitive to amphetamines. And again, I can attest to that clinically with the people that I see. Studies with humans that were raised without a father, so this is actually humans now, show an increased chance of risky and maladaptive behavior. And in particular, girls show an increased risk for substance abuse, which again, I can attest to in my clinical practice. There's no question. And the other piece, and this is the good news, is that the impact of fathers is we actually have the power to rewire the brains of our kids. Like, let that sink in for a second. You don't have to be a neuropsychologist or neuropsychiatrist for this to work. This is just what happens when we're with our kids in the way we need to. So kids struggling with mental health, trauma, and stress need dads. Brains don't just change, right? They need new pathways to be developed, and it's these new pathways that inhibit the older trauma-related stress pathways that cause the problems. And so one of the biggest influences on developing these new pathways is through bold, playful interactions that enhance a human's ability to be bold and to be playful. Like, this is hardwired into our DNA. When I read this research, I just about fell off my chair, because this is what we do as dads. This is what we're designed to do. And sometimes what we hear is, oh, they just roll on the ground together and play and cause me a headache, and oh my gosh, what? Yes, because that's what we're designed to do in our DNA. And that is what actually helps our kids' brains rewire from the old trauma and stress related pathways to the new healthy ones that inhibit those old ones and help our kids thrive. And so dads are doing what our biology was designed to do, play to enhance neurodevelopmental growth of new resilient pathways in the brain. And so I want to throw some statistics at you because again, this counters some of what we see in the media. They did a big research study in 2012, and what it showed is that overall, 86% of fathers are present at the birth of their child. Now, let me tell you something. That actually is a more significant statistic because for a variety of reasons, dads aren't always allowed to be at the birth of the child, including like sometimes births are traumatizing and catastrophic and medically complicated, and nobody's allowed in the room other than the doctors and the woman. So this statistic actually is higher. The 86% doesn't mean that 14% of dads just didn't want to show up. Okay, so let that sink in. This is really important. And fathers who are engaged during the pregnancy and delivery are more likely to remain engaged with the family over the course of the child's life. And the mother's satisfaction with pregnancy and birth is linked to how well their partner was treated by the midwife. So midwife, doctor, nurse, insert your profession there. This was a study on midwives. So what this suggests is that how the men are treated in the hospital influences how well the mom does post-birth and into life. Like, this is how important this is. So we have to engage dads before birth. This can't be after the fact. So often men are pushed aside, not brought into the process as much as they could be. And we need to change that, because what we see is in sitcoms is we are the bumbling idiot. You know, the wife is the voice of reason. She's hot. She's a great mom. She's the heart of the family, sharp as a tack, firecracker, which, let me be clear, that doesn't also mean that the wife isn't all those things. She absolutely can be all those things. And hallelujah, she's all those things. It's great. But we're not just a bunch of bumbling idiots. Because here's the thing. Research shows that fathers are biologically designed for attunement to their kids. Dads who sleep on the same sleeping surface experience a drop in testosterone that may in fact actually make them more responsive to the needs of the kid and help them focus on the tasks and demands of fatherhood. Our biology changes when we hang out with our kids. And what it means is, in this case, our testosterone goes down, but that's okay. It doesn't mean we're not a man anymore. It doesn't mean we're not virile and muscular and all those things that we're supposed to be. It means our body responds to our kids so that we can be who our kids need us to be. And so the take home on this slide is it's quality of parenting skills, not amount of time. So I don't know who's on this call right now, but if you are a dad and you've gone through a divorce or in the middle of a separation and you're stressing out about not being able to spend enough time with your kids, I know that's hard. And I'm not saying don't fight for time with your kids. You absolutely should fight for time with your kids. However, what the research says is that it's the quality of the parenting and the quality of the time you have with your kids that matters. And the kids are far better off spending 20% the amount of time with good quality parenting and connection with you than 100% of the time with poor quality parenting and connection, because 100% of the time with that actually makes them worse, right? So focus on the time you've got and make it good. And so dads, the other thing is it's hard. Fatherhood is risky. The stats are actually that men are more depressed when they live inside the house with their family. That's the weird stat. And so what that means is that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to go see the counselors. We need to do the exercise. We need to do all these things, because if we don't, we aren't going to connect with our kids in the way they need. But being a dad is risky. It's not safe. And so anything worth doing involves risk. And connecting emotionally with our kids is hard sometimes, but we don't have to be perfect. We have to be present. And I know it's kind of offside to quote yourself in a presentation. This just came to me while I was writing this and I liked it. So I put it in here so that I'm going to remember it, because I struggle with this just like everybody else. And so to finish up, I want to introduce you to my hero. And here's where I'm going to lose my cookies. This is my dad. He is an incredibly accomplished individual. He's got a PhD in computer science, multiple master's degrees. He's been a prof at the University of British Columbia. He's founded a number of incredibly successful companies. You can thank him for your internet. He was one of the pioneers and has developed many of the things your internet depends on, including what we're using to run this workshop. So by the world standards, he's a rock star. And he is. I love bragging about him because I think he's pretty cool. But that's not why he's my hero. If you've ever heard me speak, you've probably heard some of my story with mental health. It's not pretty. Because of this, I was not the easiest kid to parent sometimes. Not because I was difficult in that sense. I was actually pretty easy in most respects because I was the stereotypical golden child, and mainly because I hid what was going on from the world. I was difficult to parent because my mental health was rocky, and trying to connect with me could be hard. So my dad didn't grow up with a whole lot in terms of parenting, not because my parents weren't good or my grandparents weren't good people. They were incredible people. They just didn't have much in terms of parenting from their parents because they escaped from Russia while literally being shot at, running for the border, and they were just trying to survive in Canada. So the prevailing opinion was, you have a roof, you have food, my job is done. And so my dad wanted different for me and my sister and for himself as a father. And so he did things differently, even when he didn't understand. I remember one night in grade 11 when I just couldn't take it anymore. I was depressed, suicidal, devastated by a breakup, and about to give up on life. And so I walked out to the end of my driveway and I just collapsed on the driveway, bawling my eyes out because I was in so much pain. And to give you a bit of perspective, that was approximately the third time I'd ever cried in my life. And my dad came out and he found me lying there on the driveway in tears. And he sat down beside me without a word. And he just held me for over an hour until I was okay. I'm sure he had no idea what was going on because I didn't tell anybody. I'm sure he had no idea what to do because who would? And in retrospect, he was probably scared. And he was there, holding me, not saying a word, probably because he had no idea what to say. That's fatherhood. That's showing up. That's being present. So he's not a hero because he's a good dad. We're not heroes for being good dads. We're doing our jobs. He's my hero because he was and is the dad I need. And this is what we're called to be as fathers, present. It's our job, it's our responsibility, and it's life-changing for our kids. I would not be the father I am today without his example. And honestly, I probably wouldn't be alive. His love and presence changed my life. This is why fathers matter. This is the difference you can make. And it may very well be a life and death thing. So fight for the life you want for your kids. And so if we can be of help, that's how you get a hold of us. That's all I got. Dads, you're important. You matter. And thanks for giving me some time to talk about that today.